Hi, my name is Bobby Holcomb. I'm with Knoxville Youth Athletics, and I'm very, very glad and happy to enjoy our guest today. This is our second week of our weekly interview, and our guest today is probably one of the most highly respected coaches in the entire state of Tennessee. As a coach, I know he wreaks havoc on myself being in competition with him on a yearly basis. I know when we as a school at Webb, we have to always look, where's Hardin Valley going to do next? So we got Hardin Valley's head coach, director pretty much of the entire program of cross country and track, Bryan Brown. Welcome, Bryan. We appreciate you coming on today.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
So Coach Brown here has, the great thing about Coach Brown is like he's been a part of coaching for 27 years, and he's got a unique story. He runs a program that I myself, as a fan of the sport, I believe is probably one of the best run programs in the entire state. He's not just a cross country coach, a track coach, but he's a well-rounded coach when it comes to field events, sprints, and then of course distance runners. He's basically run 2 cross state titles in cross country, 1 outdoor track, 7 indoor track. He also holds 35 times his team is placed in the top 5, 33 state individual champions, 8 relay state champions, and of course, where our school has to go up against him at the KIL championship. He won 30 of them. He's probably got the most out of all coaches that have ever ran at the KIL championships. 16 of them are on the track and 14 in cross. So Coach Brown, we're very, very fortunate and lucky to have you on today. We really appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, your background was started off in football. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, well, I did football and basketball and track all in high school, and was fortunate enough to play football at a small college, Jamestown College in North Dakota. And I started off as a football and track coach, and eventually, after about 10 years, that transitioned into track and cross country. But I was a football guy that was probably mainly in the sprints and hurdles and jumps. But then as I took different teaching and coaching jobs, the track coaching evolved into a little bit more where I was still doing the football, but working with the cross country kids through an assistant coach that was actually doing the day-to-day stuff. And I guess 15 years ago now in Charlotte, I had an opportunity to take a really good head track coaching job that came along with cross country. So that was my first year that I gave up football and did track and cross country full time.
So when you're going to, you're hanging around a bunch of cross country kids, but a lot of football coaches that end up doing cross country and track, it ends up being just a second job, just to help supplement in a lot of programs. But you absolutely bought into cross country, distance running. You invested your time going through, classes and reading books and everything. What made that spark become so exciting to go from football to cross?
Well, ultimately coaching is coaching, I think. And I've done, back from when I was in college, coaching little kids in baseball and basketball and different things. And I think coaching athletes isn't very much different in any sport or any event group in track. You have to know your stuff, but it's almost more about caring about the kids and creating the right environment for them to improve than your total knowledge of every physiological aspect of any type of different sport or event or whatever it is also. So I think coaching and obviously I'm a teacher as well. And we were just talking about this morning at school. Good teachers are also probably good coaches as well, because it's about creating that personal connection with the kids. And I don't think that's any different in the classroom versus on a football field or a cross country course, or, you know, going over hurdles or whatever that might be.
So, being an overall director, you direct meets and you coach cross country and track and everything. And, you keep a well-balanced program going on a year-to-year basis. All of the coaches in our area just look up to what you accomplish at your school. So what coach inspires you? I mean, what coach out there you look at a program? It could be like any track, football, basketball, baseball. You've had to have gotten this from something somewhere to be this good.
Well, and I saw that as one of your potential questions, and I didn't really know where to look at that, because I take from a lot of folks in a lot of different areas. And obviously when I started doing more exclusively track and the distance end of it, I looked at some people that ran their programs well at certain high schools and kind of just looked at what they did. And I think you can go ahead and read all the books you want, but a lot of that stuff is geared towards elite athletes and different stuff. And you have to figure out what works for you and your program and what works for everybody else. So I look at a lot of it. And now with, Twitter and Instagram, I probably follow, I don't know, 100 to 150 different coaches in kind of a variety of, there's some strength and conditioning guys. There's quite a few track and field guys as well. But then there's also some folks randomly that are in other sports, just because the things that somebody at some point liked a quote that they had or something. And I just have picked that up as I go. Recently, this winter, when I was driving to all kinds of crazy volleyball tournaments all over the country with my daughter, I've gotten into some podcast stuff, and there's some really good stuff out there that is not only track and field specific, but I think you can put into lots of other things. The Altus group, I think, has got some good stuff. The Magnus and Marcus things. I read their Magnus and the Schulberg book a few years ago. We kind of did that with our team. I guess it's been 4 or 5 years ago now when that book came out. But there's a lot of good things that I think, just life in general, and things I've passed on to, other coaches in our program with, other sports, I think, that are very applicable to just athletes and coaching in general.
Now, you won your first state title in cross country. I know a lot of our audience today is going to probably be more cross country oriented. I know this is a preseason cross country program that we kind of cater to. Was back in 2009, am I correct? Was it
2010, sort of third year.
So the third year in, which was fascinating. Third year, now Coach Brown started the program when Hard Valley opened up. And in 3 years, they won a state championship. And how would you look at that team when you won a state championship, your philosophy, the way you went in that, to the one you just won this past year? Is there any big difference between the two on when it came to training and, the culture of the team?
I would say the training part is probably the least different amongst the groups. The two groups are completely different personality wise, and the makeup of the teams. In 2010, we had just a phenomenal individual leader that one person that I'd say kind of put everybody on their back. And Will Templeton just was the heart and soul of our team. He was a junior that year, and everybody, it all just kind of clicked right. And we had, I would say not very much different training than any of the other years we've had, but it just kind of fit right with the team. And we had some very talented kids, but those that really bought into working hard. And I think that is where the culture of our program really kind of took a turn there. The buy-in from the kids, what was increased then, and I think we've kind of had that ever since. And you and I have had this conversation. There's a lot of different philosophies, a lot of different things, but if the kids believe in what you're doing, it doesn't matter which one of those philosophies you choose: high mileage, low intensity, low mileage, high intensity, somewhere in the middle, lots of tempo runs, or even the differences of the way some very successful coaches in Tennessee have done it, where some people race 11 times in the year, or others, well, we don't race very much. We only race about 6 times in the year. If the kids believe in what you're doing, I think that is probably the biggest determining factor of your success or not.
Yeah. So let's kind of dig into the team building process. I know that it seems to be a big thing is creating that wonderful culture at your school. What are some of the things that you do at your school to help kind of bring the team together? Do you guys do camps? Do you guys do, off-season classes? Do you guys do, I know some schools will actually sit down in a classroom and go over like stats or, goals, team building, just activities. What do you do in the off season to kind of bring that team together?
I think there's quite a few things we did, and way back early, before I even got a house here in Knoxville, we went out and got the website HVAtrack.org was the thing. And if you go on there, and I'm actually working on updating for this year, kids can go and see the history. They can go see their name. They can see, and that's important to kids to be able to see how they do. And I think that was some of the early things where kids got to see that, oh, I'm on this top 10 list of the school, or it's important for us to be able to do that. And we try to celebrate those successes, big and small, and all the PRs that kids have whenever there's we send out a weekly email that's got during cross country or track season that shows how well kids did, and individual PRs or season bests doing that. And I think they like seeing those things, their names, being celebrated like that. Everyone likes to hear nice things about them. But then as far as what we've done over the years, we've kind of gone back and forth. And last year was a aberration with COVID, everything, but we've done pasta dinners with the kids, come and eat and hang out and like that. And we've had back in 2008, we had about 16 kids on the team, and we'll probably have close to 60 this year. And there's a wide range of abilities. We've got the very good kids that will be going on to top level colleges next year, and those that don't know if they're going to make it through the first day of practice, but they're all pretty much included in everything we do by the other kids and definitely by the coaching staff. But that's part of it. We do go away to a camp that most of the kids go to. It's not required by any means. We've done our own. We started off back in actually 2009 was our first camp, and we did it up at Norris Dam State Park for the first 6 or 7 years, where different sets of parents would come and bring us food, and we stayed in the rustic cabins and piled kids on all kinds of air mattresses and the couches and different stuff like that. And that was a lot of fun. And it was one of the things that I think helped grow our numbers, as kids really enjoyed that camp time. We go to Blowing Rock now, and the running's a whole lot better. The trails are nicer. We don't have to cook our own food. That's kind of a bonus for me instead of having to worry about all that kind of stuff. But something that stayed no matter where we were is the first night of camp, we have a team meeting, one for the boys and one for the girls. And we kind of have our goal setting, both individual and team. And part of that is their buy into what they're going to be willing to do to improve. Not just like, show up at practice, because everyone shows up at practice and everybody does the workouts well and things like that. But it's the other 22 hours of every single day, through the 4 months of your season, that the biggest improvement can probably take place. And then that's where they decide individually and as a group what they're willing to do for each other. And I really think that's been a big part of what we've done in the team building. But then we do silly games. We break them up. Like this year, I just broke them up into the teams, and we'll have 7 different teams of 5 to 6 kids, but then they compete at camp through different stuff. And some stuff as silly as, chopstick races and different things like that, and a ninja tournament and all kinds of stuff that they just end up competing with, and none of it really to do with how well they can run.
Right.
So they have a blast doing that, and I'm looking forward to that. That's a couple weeks out for us right now. I'm very glad that we were able to go. Last year we were not able to do that, and we tried to do something in town and go different places and run. It just wasn't quite the same, but
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to go back. That's some good stuff about the summer buildup and your summer, team building and everything. I want to kind of go back now. You talked about, Will Templeton, how he was kind of like the foundation of, of the program. He's probably, I know a lot of people, when they think about Hardin Valley, they look from the outside in, we think of the Templetons, and Will was definitely the base of that. And then you had his brother, Aaron, a lot of you guys don't know out there, Aaron Templeton is currently a pro runner for 10 men elite out in Colorado. He was a U.S. national champion, if I believe, in the 5K road. Was it road or second place?
He was second.
He was second. He has qualified for the trials. He was All-American at Furman University. He was one of the most decorated Hardin Valley, and I know he won several state championships and was a Footlocker finalist, All-American Footlocker finalist. And so talk about real quick some of, some memories of, coaching a very heavily elite runner like that back in high school and then developing him a little bit. Tell us a little about background on that.
Well, it was started off that first year. His brother was, state champion for us twice. And Aaron was the guy that was kind of coming on, and he wasn't really even sure he was going to do track his freshman year until he got third place in the state cross country meet and then won Footlocker South in the freshman race. I don't really think he was full on board with being a runner until then. He was going to play soccer. I obviously think he made the right choice to be with us full time, but guys like him, and we've had 14 different all-state kids, and obviously those kids come to mind, but the thing that they have in common with everybody is their willingness to do the work, and not everything. Like this time of year, it's not fun when it's 90 degrees out there and you got to go and get 5 or 6 miles in or do a hill workout or whatever it is. But those guys and Will in the beginning and then Aaron after him were our leaders for those first about 6 years of our program. And then even afterwards, the guys on the team now follow it close enough where they all know who Aaron is. And a few of them, he's been around a little bit, but he's been gone now for a long time. He graduated in 2014. So, but the guys still know it and know what he did. And they ask, well, what did Aaron do in this workout, or what happened on this? And they can go on our website and see the times on the different courses and different stuff like that. And some of them are really, really fast with that. And we've got a really talented group of guys right now that really kind of are into what that was. And it's kind of cool connecting the past with the present with that. But it's just a different kind of a different vibe with those teams, because we were so heavily front loaded back then with those guys getting, first. We got first in the state low stick 4 years in a row. It's pretty nice to be able to count that at the state meet. But for as good as our guys are now, I think their strength is their depth and lack of split 1 to 7 and 1 to 10, really, about where that is we're such a tight group of really talented guys, but we don't have to rely on a number one scorer. We probably mixed up our order, especially 2 through 10, almost every race last year, which is kind of nice.
Right. Well, good lead way into, you talked a lot about the current athletes you have right now. For some that don't know, last year was probably one of the biggest victory margins that we have seen in some time. You'd have to look back in the 80s or something of that nature on both men and women's side to see a dominance of having 30 some on points and then the next place team having over 100. That's just not heard of hardly at all in the state of Tennessee, and especially our state is really getting bigger and better depth, and it showed your team last year and how good it is and how good it is going to be. So tell us a little bit about what's up to come for you guys I'm sure you don't want to give away a lot of secrets to us coaches over there that are probably scouting you all and trying to steal some secrets from time to time. But what's coming up for you guys in the upcoming year to build on last year? Because you guys are definitely heavily favored going in on all aspects on the men's side this coming year.
Well, last year was kind of the perfect storm. We'd had a pretty good year, and it was different training in different groups because of trying to not get contact traced and the different stuff. But I don't know that we could have executed much better on the state meet day than we did. For as low as we scored, we were actually through 2 miles, probably even lower. And we kind of, just there, and the boys ran lights out. We had all 7 guys in the top 23, I think, at 2 miles, which was just incredible. And we had an absolutely great day, and a couple others didn't have, how it goes sometimes. But we didn't really know also because we had not been out of Knoxville the whole year, and we'd raced on mostly hard courses throughout the year as well. So we hadn't really run fast like some of the other schools, because on paper, I think we were 3rd going into the day, but my guys were pretty confident and knew that if we run our race plan and just execute, that we'd be pretty good. So we were pretty happy with that. And obviously we had a great cross country season. Not much indoor for us, which is different. A few guys raced at the state indoor meet, and that was about it. And we usually have a little bit more, but then we had a pretty good outdoor season. We had our by far most guys run fast in the mile. I think we had 12 guys under 4:35, something like that. And then we have probably only 3 of those guys were seniors, so most of those guys back. Some young guys that are just kind of chomping at the bit, and it's kind of that whole part of the culture where the young guys now they're fighting to just make sure that they can be noticed to get in that top 10 group to get to make it on the list to be able to go there. And that's a good problem for us. And for those that have been kind of following us, our guys were pretty good as freshmen. I think we were 5th place when they were freshmen and sophomores, and then champions last year. So it's kind of been a building process. It's not an overnight thing. They were really good when they came to us. Just putting them on the right track and building up. And as most folks that follow it know, that some kids, especially boys, sometimes they can be decent in cross country and then just get beat up on the track because it's a different animal. That a lot of times, even if you're good in cross country, you're not very good until you're a junior or senior on the track. And the guys have just kind of kept believing in what they were doing and working hard, and adding obviously to all their given talents that they have. But it's been fun to be a part of it.
So this upcoming year, is it going to be Footlocker or NXN?
Well, I would say that we will probably do NXN. Obviously, that's a long ways from now, but the plan last year was to do NXN, and then obviously they both got canceled, and moving forward, and that's the plan for right now. We are planning to go to Great American to see the course beforehand, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun going and actually getting to compete at some bigger meets instead of all these small things that our great community in Knoxville put on more races than I've ever seen before last year. So we're grateful for that, but also going to be fun to go to some big meets again.
Have you raced at Great American before?
Not raced at Great American. We did the NXN regional in 2011. So on that course. But even in my years in North Carolina, we never went to Cary. So I've only been on the course one time before. So that's why we're going to go to Great American and check things out, and hopefully get in a good race with some good competition, and see what we've got.
Awesome. One final note, Coach Brown, advice for some of our audience that are going to be a lot of youth, middle schoolers, high schoolers, and even coaches. What is one good advice you can give before we close out today?
I'm going to give you 2 pieces. First of all, for runners, whether you are in the third, fourth, fifth grade, you're in the middle school, you're in high school, you got to enjoy what you're doing, because there's too many other times that are not very fun in what you're doing. And if you can't find pleasure in the good things, you got to be happy with every PR, big or small, because after you start improving, they become fewer and fewer. And it seems like harder days than easier days. So celebrate every victory, celebrate everything you can, because there's going to be days that you need that to get yourself through.
Right.
And just put the time in.
Yeah.
Nobody is as good a runner right now as they will be in the future, just because the aerobic engine that you can build. But just keep at it. And for coaches, find a coach you trust, somebody that does well, pick their brain. I've not met a coach yet that's keeping secrets from anybody else. We've got a very great community in Knoxville, but even if I've got guys that I text and email from the middle of the state, in North Carolina, in Kentucky, in Memphis, that there's not secrets amongst anybody. And because it's really about the kids. It's not about what we do. So find a mentor, find somebody, text them, email them. Most people are very happy to talk about it, and it makes them feel good that somebody's asking them for advice. So find somebody, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Coach Brown, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time. I know this is the dead period for all of us, and we appreciate you taking the time away to, talk about this. And we're looking at, as a fan of the sport, excited to watch you guys this fall. This is going to be an incredible year to kind of be a fan and kind of watch how you guys develop throughout. As a coach that's going to have to compete against you, I'm dreading every second of it, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be some great duels, and I'm excited for you guys this fall. And I appreciate taking the time out today, Coach.
Thanks, Bobby. It's been fun.
All righty. Take care. Have a good one.